And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan Metzler here again, and today we're going to take a look at a game from Bruno Faidutti, being distributed by Repos and Asmodee. This is Mascarade. Now this was released at Gen Con. It's a game that plays anywhere between 2 and 13. I say in the future part 12, but it's 13 players. It plays very quick, and it's along the lines of Coup. Now Coup is a game where everybody has secret roles, and you're trying to figure out, you're trying to use your roles and kind of bluff a little bit in order to get a certain amount of money and win the game. This game is the same way, except for that everybody has one role, and they may or may not know what they have. But before I go into it too much, why don't I just show you what comes inside of the box and how the game plays, and then I'll come back here at the end and give you my opinions of it. So here you can see the components for Mascarade. Now I have this set up for a 5-player game, but the game plays way more than 5 people. It'll play all the way up to 12. There's different roles that you'll take out. I'll cover those real quickly, but you'll see I've got a bunch of them here, like the Inquisitor and the Fool and the Spy, the Peasant and the Beggar, the Widow, and another Peasant and the Thief that are all removed from the 5-player game. But you'll see I have 6 roles out for a 5-player game, and that's because one of them will be in the center of the table in this variant. With more than 5 players, actually each player will only have their own role, and there won't be one in the center of the table. But the gameplay mechanics are much the same. So I'm going to kind of cover that, and then you'll be able to extrapolate from that how the rest of the game would play with more people, which of course is going to be better, because this is that style of game. Now, the idea here is that each person will have their own role at the beginning of the game. You'll see we have the Judge, the Cheat, the King, the Bishop, the Queen, and the Witch. Now, with these roles, each one has its own ability. And you can use those abilities in order to try and accomplish the goal of the game, which is to get 13 money before anybody else. Now, each person's role is different. For example, the Judge here is going to get money that people have to pay as fines. That makes sense, right? The Judge gets the fines. But how are you going to get fines? Well, we'll cover that later. Just know that eventually money will go out on here, and if you're the Judge, or you think you're the Judge and can convince other players, you'll be able to take the money from here for yourself. The Cheat here actually is a card that doesn't have a real ability. He doesn't have a special ability, but he wins if he gets to $10. So instead of $13 like every other player, he only needs 10. But you have to be him and convince everyone else you're him, or, prove that you're him in order to win the game with 10. The King simply lets you take 3 money. If you have his ability, you can take 3 money. The Bishop is going to let you take 2 money from whoever else has the most money. So if you believe you're the Bishop and everyone else believes you, you'll be able to take 2 money from the richest player. The Queen, much like the King, just takes money. She can take 2 money. And the Witch allows you to switch your entire total of money, for example, my pool of money here, with any other player, usually a player who has a lot of money. So you're going to try and switch out from your lower money to somebody else's money. Now, the idea here is that everybody at the beginning of the game is going to be dealt one of these cards, and they'll be dealt face up so everyone will know their role. After this, everyone is going to flip their roles face down. So they're all going to hide them. Now, you should have a pretty good idea of who has what at the start. Maybe the Witch wasn't dealt out and it's now in the center of the table. That's the role that is going to be, available to everybody to switch with. Now, each person has their roles out here. The first 4 actions of the game are going to be what's called a swapping action. Each player, in turn order, has to pretend or actually swap their card with someone else. So maybe this player here, who will remind you had the Judge, decides to switch with this player here, who will remind you had the Bishop. So he takes these cards, Judge in this hand, Bishop in this hand, and behind his back he can shuffle them. Now, he can pay attention if he wants to which card he had. Maybe he doesn't actually want to swap, so he's going to keep this one, which is his card that he started with. But he's doing this behind his back so the other player can't see. And he'll return them to where they were. So now player 1 has his card that he started with, and player 4 doesn't actually know which card he has. He has one of the 2 that was started, so either the Judge or the Bishop, but he's not sure. After this point, player 2 has to do the same thing. So now he can pick his card up, and he can say, well, I know that this player has one of 2 cards, and this player has one of 2 cards, but I know exactly what this player has. So we'll remind you, this player has the Cheat, and this player has the King. And now maybe our new player wants the King, so he shuffles them up, and he returns them like this. Now that our second player has the King, and our third player has the Cheat. Our third player then has to make a swap much like that, and so does the fourth player. But after that, you have 3 choices of action of what to do. You may swap your card with somebody else's, or pretend to swap it if you so choose. If you know what you have, you may want to pretend to swap so that you have an idea of 2 different roles that you could use. The second option is you may peek at your card. Maybe this player is now really confused as to what they have and they want to know. So they just look at their card, okay, I'm the King, and they put it back. Your third option on your turn is to use the ability of your card. So let's say this player here believes that they are the judge. I don't know how they got to be the judge, but they believe that they're the judge. So they say, I'm the judge. Now, that would be no good right now because there's no money in this center table. So let's choose a different example. Say they believe that they're the king. And they say, I'm the king. Now, here's the option. Either everybody can let that person be the king, or anybody who wants to can call them out on it. They can say, no, I'm the king. And if they say that, everyone who calls them out, it could be every other player who believes they're the king. Everyone would reveal their card, and whoever is correct is going to get the action of the king. However, everyone who is wrong is going to have to pay a money from their 6 starting money to the town hall here, or whatever you want to call it, the area that the judge can take his money from. So this player says, I'm the king, and they flip their card over. Nope, they're the judge. Okay, well, they have to pay $1. And they did. Then the next player flips over and says, I'm the king. Well, they are the king, so they're going to get $3. Anybody else who said that they were the king is going to go ahead and flip their card over, pay 1 to the center, and then everyone will flip their cards back face down. So this is one way to find out who you are, even without taking the action, but it also lets everyone else know who you are and costs you one of your, essentially, victory points. You're going to continue on in this manner, either swapping a card, looking at your card, or using the ability of your card, or whatever card you think you have. And of course, note that you may lie here. You may know that you're the king, but say that you're the judge, because the other person doesn't know that they're the judge because cards have been swapped around. So it's all about trying to keep track of the cards, knowing what role you have, but bluffing what role you might want to use in order to get your 13 gold, or 10 if you're the cheater. Anyhow, the player who's best able to do this, keep track of cards and bluff a little bit in order to get money, is going to be the winner. Now, I told you that I'd cover the other roles real quickly, so let's do that. The spy, I'm going to read these off because I'm not intimately familiar with all of them, just from looking at them. The spy is going to let you look at their card and another card and then swap them or not. You have the bishop, which takes 2 coins from the richest of players. We had that one earlier. You have the thief, who is just able to take 1 gold coin from both adjacent players. So they can go to the left and right and take a coin from them. You have the peasant, who... There's 2 peasants in the game, mind you. So there's 2 peasants, and they receive 1 gold coin. And if both peasants are revealed, they're going to get 2 gold coins. So if both peasants know who they are, they can both reveal their cards, and each one of them will get 2 money. That's a lot better working as a pair, but you don't want to let somebody else win the game in that aspect. The fool is going to get 1 gold coin and then swap 2 cards other than their own. So they kind of mess with the game a little bit, potentially swapping 2 other cards and getting a gold. The widow is going to get coins from the bank until they have a total of 10, so if you're the widow, you can automatically get up to 10, and then hopefully switch with the cheat in order to win the game. Hey, there's an idea for you. And finally, there's the Inquisitor, who is going to choose one other player. The Inquisitor looks like this. He's going to choose one other player and point to them. And he's going to say, you must now tell me what your character is. And if that player is right, then they're good, but if the player's wrong, they give the Inquisitor 4 coins. Now, of course, you could be lying about all of this, but essentially whoever best uses their characters in the game that's currently available with the cards that are out there is going to be the winner. Well, there you have it. That is Mascarade by Asmodee and Repost. Now, one thing I want to come out right away and say, there's been all of this hype about Coup, and Mascarade is without a doubt 100%, of course I'm going to get flamed for this, but this game is better than Coup. Straight up better. Now, the reasoning for this is that in Coup, you're dealt 2 roles. You know what those roles are, and you can lie or bluff about those roles, and that's all great, grand, and wonderful. But if you get the right combination of roles, you're set up for a situation where it's going to be a lot easier to win than if you get other roles. Now, in Mascarade, there's all of these different abilities, and all of the abilities seem to be pretty well balanced. But of course, the king being able to take 3 coins is a little bit better than the queen being able to take 2 coins, for example, or the peasant being able to take 1 and 2 if the other peasant reveals. 3 coins is still better than 2. But here's the deal. In this game, each person has 1 role. They may or may not know what their role is. So you have your role. It could get switched. You don't know what it is anymore. Or maybe you think it's the same one, or it could be one of 2, and then it switches again. It could be one of 3. And eventually you end up in a situation where you have really no idea what you have, but other people might know what you don't have. And so by having that interaction in there and being able to switch between other players, you kind of limit the ability to get out ahead or to have one role be explicitly better than the other. And I think that's where this game really shines. Now, the artwork is great. The gameplay is fun. I wouldn't call it, an amazing revelation in gameplay, but it is fun. And it's one that I could see pulling out when I had a whole bunch of players around the table. I'm not going to play it with 3 or 4, but if I have 5, 6 to 12, it may be something 13, I may pull it out and play it. So with that said, if you're checking or looking out for a game where you can play a lot of players and you can play pretty quick, it's got simple rules, definitely check out Mascarade.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.